Hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. My name is Paola Capo. I work for the AIA sustainability team and more specifically, the 2030 commitment team. And we're so glad that you guys are here. I'm looking forward to this conversation and having you all learn from each other. Keith and Chris have great experiences and they'll introduce themselves in a second. But before we jump into that, I just wanted to encourage everyone to feel free to jump on your camera, feel free to jump on your microphone, and we really want to encourage you to make this a conversation. There's also the chat box, so if you feel more comfortable just adding questions or comments in there, feel free to do that as well. And then lastly, I wanted, before I give it over to the experts, I wanted to mention a new resource that we published earlier this year, creating a sustainability action plan that works. And so this resource is something we created for 2030 signatories, but even if you're not a 2030 signatory, you could create a sustainability action plan. And it includes examples from what other signatories have done for their plans, and it has worksheets at the end that you can use, and a ton of great resources. So I'll put the link in the chat so you guys can access that. But I'll pass it over to Keith to get us started.
Great, thanks, Paula. The moment of truth, always bringing up your screen. Is everybody seeing that okay?
Not yet.
Okay. How about now?
There we go.
Awesome. Great, so we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Keith Hempel. I am a architect by training. I'm a principal at LPA and chief design officer here as well. So we are a integrated design firm, architect, landscape architects, civil engineers, plumbing, electrical, mechanical, structural. So all our disciplines are in-house, and we have the ability to work as an integrated team. So that was great. We've also undertook at the beginning of the year updating our sustainability action plan. So it makes this this talk really timely. We're putting the finishing touches on it as we speak. So love to have the opportunity to kind of share what we've gone through so that maybe you can learn and ask questions. And actually, if you have any ideas on how we can make it better, we'd love to hear that too. So we are a large firm, about just over 400 folks, and we have 6 regional studios, 4 in California, 2 in Texas. And along with our integrated services, we also work in 8 practice areas. So commercial, workplace, K-12 education, higher ed, healthcare, mixed use, sport and rec, civic, and healthcare. So really diversified practice, which is really fun, gives us a lot of different opportunities to work with a lot of interesting clients. Big part of our practice is sustainability as well. We've been fortunate. We've had really good success with the 2030 commitment, meeting the 70% predicted energy use reduction thresholds in both 2018 and 2019. So we're really proud of that as well. So like I said, at the beginning of the year, we started our process of updating our sustainability action plan. And we started with this. This is actually the definition straight from the AIA website. We invited all of our design directors and our senior design leadership, design leads and discipline leads, to be a part of a working group to put together our sustainability action plan. Together, this group of individuals touch all of our projects. They touch all of our practices. They touch all of our studios. They touch all of our projects. So we wanted them to have ownership and buy in to the sustainability action plan, because they're going to be the ones who really carry it to all of our project teams. We understood that keeping this current, keeping the sustainability action plan up to date, and was part of our commitment when we signed up as a signatory to the 2030 commitment. But as a group, we also understood that the effort and the value of the tool went beyond just checking a box. That we had the opportunity to use this as a learning tool for our staff, for onboarding new staff members, and for educating clients. And we wanted this document to be something that grows. We're continuing to evolve our process. We wanted the document to be built in a way that it could evolve with us. And we wanted to try to keep it simple, something that's easy to read. A portion of it, a bridge portion of it could be public facing on our website or posted to the AI website, but then kind of a deeper dive also available for staff to kind of provide more step-by-step instructions on how to approach sustainability in their projects. So at the end of the day, the overriding theme was the effort we were going to undertake had a simple goal. It had to make us a better firm. If it's not going to make us a better firm, then why undertake and go through the effort? So we came up, our first step was kind of to kind of think about how we were going to organize the document. We wanted, again, something really simple, something really clean. It has 5 sections to it, kind of an opening introduction about who we are and our missions and values. The meat of the plan is really based into 3 sections: how we design as a firm, how we practice as a firm, and how we share as a firm. And then the idea to close with something aspirational, something that would motivate everyone who reads it to come alongside of us. So I'm going to go through the.
Sorry to interrupt. It looks like the little box that, like the Zoom box with everyone's faces, is covering part of your slides. Could you minimize that? Could you hide that thumbnail video, like the videos?
How's that?
Better. Thank you.
No problem. Great. So thank you, Paula, by the way. It's always okay to interrupt. So I'm going to go through the meat of the section, the 3 main sections that provide a lot of the action points, if you will. So how we design, how we practice, and how we share. The how we design section is really talking about goal setting. We ask the expectation, we ask all our project teams to set goals around 4 simple areas: health and wellness, the user experience, the performance of the project, and then how understanding and working towards how that project interacts with the community. And with each project, we talk as an integrated team about a design approach that always calls for us to use passive methods first, moving into more active conservation measures, looking to optimize those systems that are part of those conservation measures, looking to consider offsets, whether that be renewables or carbon offsets, and always asking our teams to think about what it means to design for zero. Our client may not have goals that stretch all the way to designing for zero, but asking our teams to have an understanding of what designing for zero is going to mean for each project. And then asking those teams to then, no matter what the target is, I think, a lot of this language that you're seeing comes right from the 2030 commitment, which is, based on energy use, based, moving towards net zero carbon, but it really applies to any metric or any target that we're setting, whether it be water, whether it be materials, whether it be energy. We want to establish benchmarks. We want to set targets. We want to track progress throughout our process at key milestones. As we're rounding into completion, we want to analyze results, and then we want to take those results and we want to share those lessons back to our project teams, to our firm, so that we can learn from things we did well, learn from things that we could do better, so that we can inform the next project and look to continuously improve. And then kind of rounding out this section, really trying to drive home that as a firm, as an organization, we really do understand and practice and believe in the connection between performance and design excellence. So talking about each of our disciplines and what metrics are important to them, and then really kind of recognizing the AIA framework for design excellence as a holistic approach to design that really allows all of our disciplines to contribute to the narrative of the project. So how we practice, moving into the second section, I think this will look familiar, right? We set goals for our projects on wellness, experience, performance, community. We ask ourselves as an organization, on how we practice as an architectural design integrated firm, to set goals in the same areas. And that, when we talk about wellness of our staff and our employees, work-life balance, fitness, nutrition, physical and mental health. We have programs in place that we're looking to support, bolster, improve as we grow as a firm. From an experience standpoint, it's really focused on increasing the level of fluency that we have as an organization around sustainability. And we have a number of educational programs that speak to that. We have general LPA University education sessions every month. We actually have one today at lunch here on the West Coast. We have Tech Talks, which are talks that talk about the technical side of the practice. We have master classes, which are more focused, smaller group that are more deep dives into certain topics. And then we also have the opportunity through our foundation to offer professional development grants, which allow focused research outside of the project to help inform us as designers. And then from performance as a practice, talking about facility operations, talking about waste streams, talk about how we travel between studios and to our projects. All those come into the metrics that we're charting as an organization. And then our community, local community engagement and outreach, supporting local businesses with products that we procure. And then our LPA Foundation allows us to support really important endeavors in our local communities in each of our studio locations to build stronger communities, stronger neighborhoods. And then the final section is how we share. Here, this is really a topic about scale. We do want to build a culture of accountability, and we do want to share between individuals, between project teams, between our studios, practices, and disciplines, and share as a firm as a whole. As individuals, we have the opportunity to connect to training and continuing education resources, and we have a research team in-house that provides a number of resources that everyone has access to. Within our project teams, the expectation is that we build design narratives for each project with clearly stated goals and clearly stated results. Those narratives are shared between our project teams. And like we said, part of our project process is to analyze results and share lessons learned. All our project teams have access to those results and those lessons learned. And then at the next scale up, our studio, our practice, our discipline levels, driving key research that's important to that scale of our organization, undertaking POEs and sharing that broadly with a profession and with our teams and with our clients, and then outreach to local professional organizations. All of that's covered within this section. And then to close, as a firm, we look to share our values of sustainability with our clients. We look to share broadly, nationally on a national level, participating with the AIA, participating with professional organizations with a national presence, and then key partnerships. We have a partnership with the Center for the Built Environment, also work closely with the USGBC to promote what we've learned from our process and share that to elevate the process of the professions as a whole. So with that, really excited to hand this off to Chris Helstern from Miller Hall. They're doing some tremendous work, and I'm dying to see what they're doing with their sustainability action plan.
Thanks, Keith. Yeah, it's great to see all your efforts. We certainly have some things that overlap there. So it's great to see some alignment. Everybody see my screen okay?
Got it.
Just went away. How's that looking? Okay. So thanks for joining us, everybody. I'm Chris Helstern. I'm an architect and one of the sustainability directors here at Miller Hall in Seattle. We've got two studios that are part of our firm, so primarily focused in Seattle, where most of our staff is. About 110 folks or so now is what we share between these two studios in Seattle and San Diego. We are a just firm. We have been for several years now and into multiple versions of the program. If you haven't looked into that, I would encourage you to do it. It's really great, helps your organization improve, not just for the work and business that you do, but also for you as staff and employees. So it's a really great transparency label system that can really make some improvements. Both of our studios here, you can also see our Living Building Challenge certified, which also kind of leads into our sustainability action plan and the values we hold. So let's get right into it and take a look at an overview. A little bit more text heavy than I like on these slides, but hopefully you'll be able to go back later and reference things. So let's first start with, why do you need a plan? Keith outlined some of this a bit too, and for us, it's some similar points, but I'm trying to break it down a little more clear to set direction and priorities. Really have your firm and your operations and your project work have some guiding principles for it, to get everyone on the same page and to really drive alignment. So when you have new staff, you can onboard people and help them understand that the goals that you're all trying to work towards are all the same. It's a great reference point as well. And of course, to communicate the message both internally and externally. Miller Whole core values. I wanted to put this up here because this, I think, is a helpful part of sustainability action plans, and maybe a tool that you can use too. If you haven't already started to develop one yet, or if you're looking to improve yours, go back to your firm's original values, see what you can pull out of there and help use to frame the work that you're doing, because it's also a way to help get better buy-in with your plan, and something you can always refer back to with the management. So you can see there's a few things in here that certainly apply to sustainability action plan work. And when we started to do this, we certainly had a plan back as original signatories to the 2030 Challenge back in 2009, like everybody. And most of you had that plan, but it was really pretty basic, I would imagine. Ours certainly was. And so we had to look in the last few years, how are we going to have that evolve? And it really came down to this, the idea that we must embody what we ask of our clients. We're doing regenerative design, living building projects, net zero energy. We can't just ask our clients to improve the occupant health and the performance of their projects without doing it ourselves. So this was really kind of a guiding principle in our work. And the sustainability values around our action plan, again, you probably have very similar ones to these, but the idea that we're stewards of our environment, we're talking about both human and environmental health here, and that we have a responsibility to our industry and the work that we do as architects. And I think those are really great guiding principles to help keep this work moving. So let's look at some of the components with our design work here. I won't touch on each one of these, but you can see the idea around the design work is that we're really starting to target regenerative design, 100%, all of our projects meeting that by 2030. And you can see what that encompasses here. So net positive energy, carbon sequestration, net positive water, regenerative site, and really starting to meet some high level goals, often things that are found in things like the Living Building Challenge, if you're not familiar with that yet, really focusing on prioritizing occupant health. And we kept these broad for a good reason too. It's not just trying to meet individual targets that continually have to get updated, but if we're looking to move towards the very best that our industry can do, it helps us have a more clear picture of where we need to go. Design work has also a little bit of more nebulous components to it as well, starting to talk about the process and how we drive change in the industry, how we address the social and environmental justice impact of our work as well. And of course, there's more details to this with our plan, and this is something that we continually update quite often. We made the plan fairly simple so that our sustainability team could go back and keep adding to and adjusting as we learn more and the plan begins to evolve too. And into the operations segment of our plan. So that was design work, this is operations. You can see we've already met some of these goals by having our both of our offices Living Building Challenge certified, but we still have more work to do as we move towards some of these other things. Being just tenants in some of these buildings, we have a greater challenge to deal with things like water. Carbon neutral operations, the business has already been carbon neutral in terms of our offsets that we have purchased since I think 2006 we've been operating as a carbon neutral business, but really starting to target some of these other areas in reductions and not just offsets first. And of course, focusing on employees is important, restorative office environment, all the different components that you and I would like to have in our workspaces each day. And then it's important to really have an implementation side of this. It's not just these individual points. And we've tried to go through a few different ways to communicate this. You can see this wheel on the right, which you're not supposed to read all the details. There's a bigger one that we have access to where folks can zoom in. But the important part here is to see that we have it broken down into strategies to meet our main objective, those slides we just saw earlier, interim targets and how we get there, and then of course measures of the impact. How are we meeting any of those goals? And that's kind of what this wheel does. So you start in the center, you see each of these major components that we talked about, and you work your way out to get to the final goal. We've tried spreadsheets and all sorts of things. So this is one of those pieces that really evolves quite a bit with our staff, and we try to see what works. But these three main points are really important for your action plan. So I want to look briefly at how we integrate this into project work. So as I mentioned, we certainly have a great experience with living buildings, more certified than any other architect in the world, and really has helped move our regenerative design practice. It is something we can lean on in terms of our sustainability action plan and look back to and talk with our clients about. So we know how to deliver these buildings. This is part of our firm's values. This is what we can do for you as a client as well. So that's been a really powerful piece in our work. I'm sure like many of you, we have different analysis tools to help break things down for clients. This is just a portion of one of those, gap analysis, where we start to use tools to help meet those action plan goals that we talked about. So this one, for instance, is carbon emissions. We can show clients exactly what their designs are going to do, and we can present them with strategies like good, better, best to get them to our sustainability action plan goals. We have a host of these tools, again, like many of you probably do, to help address each of our goals and implementation portions of the sustainability action plan. Now let's take a look at some of our data. So just like Keith, it's really important to have all of this information transparent. Our sustainability action plan is available on our website to anybody. You can go through and look at it in detail, use it for your own, and even provide us comment too. We would like to have some thoughts to make it better as well. But it's important to keep all this information available on our website too. We do that with our 2030 commitment information. So you can see all the way back to 2010, we keep this up there so you can see our trends, how we've been performing. Some years we did well, some years not so well. And it's important to talk about those areas too, so that we can all do better as an industry. So this is always available. We also update this each year with all of our projects information individually. Now, of course, the projects are kept confidential, but you can see how they stack up in our portfolio. And that's important too, to see how rating systems affect things, how different buildings affect our portfolio. And again, making that data transparent for everyone. And this is something we've developed in recent years too, this idea of performance wheels for each project. So every project we deal with has something that focuses on energy there to the right, water in the middle, and materials, energy on the left, water in the center, and materials on the right, to talk about the performance level of each project so that each team member can update these throughout and their project process and understand how their project is meeting the sustainability action plan goals, where we're stacking up on that. It's really challenging to try to create a wheel that deals with embodied carbon and red list materials, but that's what we've tried to do with the one on the right. But just a way to talk about this information and make it more understandable. We also have all of our office operation information on the website too, so you can see exactly how we stack up in terms of the carbon offset that we're investing in each year. And so this is a question we're often asked too. How do we talk to our clients about our sustainability action plan? And I would say we're still working on this. It's different all the time. It's not really yet a consistent process, but maybe it also can't be. You know, we all have different clients, different building types that we deal with, from our embassies with the federal government to a small homeowner that's doing a single family residence. We want to address sustainability differently for each of those clients. So we have to approach it a little bit differently, but it's important to at least start talking about it and have a consistent and clear plan that your staff can refer to, and certainly something that the management is behind. This last section I want to lead into is what one of the things that has developed out of our sustainability action plan of having such rigorous goals like regenerative design. The firm has really developed this brand new initiative we call Emission Zero. So it's the idea of targeting the elimination of greenhouse gases in all of our work, being responsible for what we have been doing in terms of design. It has 4 prongs to it. So design, educate, advocate, and offset. I'll briefly touch on each of those. The idea of the design, that we're all working to do better design work, and including carbon reduction from the very beginning. We're talking with our clients about it. It's our responsibility to do so. And we're helping work with our teams to continually drive down embodied carbon in our work. The educate component is for both us to help continually educate ourselves and our staff, and our clients too, and even the industry. Talking about this more and more will help continually push our industry to do better. Advocate, this is a piece I'm heavily involved in, really working on legislation both at the city scale all the way up through state and federal legislation that helps to target embodied carbon reduction, emissions reduction work, because this is really important. We can't just do these individual building by building interventions. Those are great, but we have to really have large scale change that is consistent for everybody across the country. So dealing with things like codes and legislative impact can really make a difference here. And finally, offsets here is the last piece. And this is what sets it apart and is a little bit more unique to our program. So we're doing those other pieces first to help drive down embodied carbon. But the big piece is that we're really offsetting our impact here as architects. We know we have to build. We know we're responsible for adding emissions in the world with our projects. And so the firm has committed to purchasing offsets for every project that we do. We've already now began this program in the spring, and we've already purchased 3 offsets to help reduce that as part of our work. So this is a new commitment that has really come out of our sustainability action plan, and I think helped to make some difference. That's really all I have for today. Thanks for joining us. I open it up to questions and hope you all can chat a bit about things. Happy to answer along with Keith here and help you on your way to working on your sustainability action plan as well.
I'll let others jump in after this, but I would love to hear you guys talk a little bit about how you engaged your firm in creating your sustainability action plan, who was involved, how were they involved, and how did that affect your sustainability action plan? And also feel free, anybody who's on the line, if you also want to contribute to this, share your experiences and things like that. I'm sure everyone will appreciate it.
Yeah, I touched on that a little bit, but I'd be happy to go in a little bit deeper to that, Paula. So we did want to have a plan that touched every aspect of our practice and touched all of our project teams. So we decided early on that our senior design leadership and our discipline leads, they represent all of our studios, all of our project types that we do, and they have access to everyone. So we really wanted them to be advocates for our sustainability action plan. So it was decided early on that they were going to be the kind of the core working group. And so from that group, we actually divided that group up into each of those 3 key sections, right? How we practice, how we design, and how we share. And they kind of created their own sub-working groups. And then we would get back together. We had whiteboards because we were working remotely doing all this. We had whiteboards for all the sections set up. We were posting notes on everybody's kind of different pieces and parts, and working together to kind of really build content that we felt was acknowledgeable and representative of where we were as a firm, and then also kind of trying to add into that where we wanted to go as a firm. So the process has been almost a year in the making now. So it was a lot of kind of focused work, coming back and collaborating, refinement, coming back and collaborating, and just kind of working through it together. And we're getting ready to kind of roll out the final draft to the firm here in the next few weeks.
Somewhat similar process for us. It was primarily held by the sustainability group that we have within our office, but it was an open, transparent process. We told everybody we were doing this, and certainly it really helps to have a great buy-in from our firm partnership. We can pretty much propose anything we want to and get unanimous support around that and get it put into this document that the firm agrees to. And then it's, like I said, we just make continually updates throughout, just kind of whenever we want. It's not on a specific time scale, but we see something we start to learn more about in a project or work more on or have some great success. We see, hey, let's add that to our sustainability action plan, or this number isn't quite working. Let's tweak that a bit and change this or eliminate this. It's not really helping our staff or making a difference. So some process that allows for this continual change.
And Paul, I see a question in the chat, which I think is pretty good, and I could definitely speak to. It's the individual Dwayne. We do a lot of build-out design where we don't have much control over envelope. How is your SAP different than for ground-up work? And we actually went through this process because we are an integrated firm and we have all these different disciplines, and we do actually have a really robust a workplace team that does tenant fit out, and so the language of our SAP really tried to morph in a way that made it applicable to whatever type of project we're doing. And Chris and his firm, they do such a wide variety of project types too. I'm sure he can speak to that as well. But it really becomes, it doesn't matter what target you set, but that you set the target and you go through the proper process. Interior build out might be more focused on lighting power density and material selection. And those are more traits that are more aligned with those types of projects, but you can still go through the same process that we outlined in our action plan, right? You can set benchmarks, you can set targets, you can track progress, you can analyze results and share lessons learned, whether that be our sites team studying water, our architectural and mechanical teams studying energy, or our interior workplace teams looking at healthy materials, looking at lighting power density, looking at water consumption for the inside of the building.
Great response. Yeah, I'd say very similar to us, so I won't add to that. I'll start to move down to the next one here. Can you explore the relationship between the firm level strategic plan and the sustainability action plan? How are they connected? Looks like I might have skipped one. We can go back to that one too. But so regarding that, we have certainly had some great overlap. We just went through, the firm went through an update of our strategic plan, and it was really great to see each of the groups and sectors by practice that our firm is broken into. They all have some targets around regenerative design and sustainability linked in there, which is, I think, one of the things that is starting to be talked about more in AIA, the idea that good design and sustainability are linked. You're seeing that in the awards programs and other efforts that the Institute is making. And so I think really having that be a greater link within our practice has been helpful. Making sure that your sustainability action plan does have ways that can be adopted to and implemented with strategic plan is really a helpful way to get it implemented as well on your work.
Yeah, it's a great question. We talked about how in our initial discussions, we were tying right into our core values, our mission, our strategic plan to start to build the sustainability action plan. But like most aspects of design, right, it's a circular process. So we started with that as a base, but we've now gone through the process of building out the sustainability action plan, and now realizing that maybe there are aspects that of our strategic plan that actually could be updated based on what we discovered and what we're proposing in our sustainability action plan. So hopefully the two work together and alignment and inform and help each documents, each efforts inform one another and elevate one another.
And I'll jump back up to that question I skipped inadvertently earlier. Do you have any far out plans or your ideal future state? For example, by 2030, will we never build another parking garage or support fossil fuel infrastructure? We do have some of that language in our more detailed plan. And you probably noted on our design work portion, we have things that say, to target regenerative design for all of our projects by 2030. So in whatever scope you're in, whether it's an interior renovation or it's a full new construction, moving towards full regenerative design. Our Emission Zero program also has some of that baked in. Again, we have already begun to offset the emissions of all of our projects. So starting to continue to drive that down as well. And I'm sure this will continue to evolve. We also see some overlap in our our firm strategic plan. We have things that our firm will not do, like around justice work, for instance, so that those things are enumerated in there as well.
Our firm, we've been focused on performance, building performance for a long time. We started setting, energy targets for our projects back in 2004, and the 2030 commitment came along and gave us a more rigorous framework to kind of guide our firm and our design process. But we're realizing now that that what we've signed up for is not zero energy, it's zero carbon. So our big kind of aspirational moves and our sustainability action plan are setting us up to how do we meet the commitment we've signed on for, and how do we move towards thinking and talking differently with our clients, with our project teams to meet the ultimate goal, which is net zero carbon.
The next one here comes from Barbara. Continuous improvement. How do your firms learn from your work to continuously improve and use things like the DDX to help with that? Which she notes is a valuable tool for marketing and business development. Yes, we certainly do that as well. And you could see in our transparent data that we provide on our website, where we're tracking all of the 2030 performance of our projects. That's something that we look at a couple times a year with our staff. And it is a challenge, to bring that out, to re-educate everyone about what this really is and the challenge, why we're seeing projects perform at the levels that we are, and what we need to do to help them go forward. We really try to simplify that as much as possible. I mean, essentially now we need to all be designing net zero energy buildings in order to meet the targets of 2030. So we help kind of tell everybody we basically need to be making bullet centers and candida centers for all of our projects. And if we simplify down to that level for us, it helps our staff to understand it better. But it's something we continually struggle with, I'm sure, like everyone, kind of reiterating those goals and bringing them back up in each design.
Yeah, I think what I would add to that is, each firm has its own culture, and the way you interact is different for each firm. But I think key to continuous improvement is building good habits that allow for a feedback loop to develop, where you can understand the goals you set for a project. You can understand how the project team came together and either exceeded those goals or might have fallen short of those goals. But what were the key lessons learned that you can share and talk about and acknowledge and help move to the next project, so that every time you're a little bit more informed whenever you put, the old adage, pen to paper, but I guess that's more, mouse to mouse pad, but whatever works for you.
Ashley's question here, how do you manage accountability within your SAP? This is something we're still working on. The process is not perfect, and it's kind of a struggle, I'm sure, like many of you. So one of the ways we've tried to do that is you saw our project performance wheels. So making sure there's kind of a clear, consistent communication across every project that's reporting performance. So teams get used to knowing what metrics they need to track, knowing how they need to perform, and then being able to communicate that to everyone. We started a new process to also implement kind of sustainability champions on each project that kind of report back to us as sustainability directors as we try to touch every project. And so those folks are really kind of empowered to do the work and kind of run through the sustainability action plan to make sure that they're achieving it. But it's really a process that's evolving all the time. We're trying new things to see what works best for our staff.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the big kind of challenges that every firm kind of has to find their own way and their own method. In a similar fashion, every project that we share, whether it be on our website or in a educational session that's internal, or a published article, we share performance data for that project. And it's understood that if your project's going to be shared, that performance needs to be a part of that kind of that transparent look at the project. And so our project teams know that that is going to be the requirement. Building those habits of understanding that and being prepared to address it when you're asked to is kind of at a project team level a really strong reinforcement of accountability.
Looking at this next one here, great question about smaller firms. How do you prioritize or incentivize creating SAP when everyone's scrambling to take care of their project work at hand? I think we all deal with that no matter the firm size. And I'd say a couple things about this is, first, to really start somewhere, do something. It can be really important to just outline several major values that your firm has in your work, and then think about making these goals really quite simple. You don't have to create a 50-page document that goes in depth about your history and everything you're going to do on every project. Find simple ways that you can create just even a one-pager that kind of enumerates your firm's values and sustainability goals around things. And in order to get people to do it, I would look at it more as a business opportunity too. You can present that to your leadership and talk about the ways the industry is moving to do this, the client demand that we're now having in almost every project we work on that is asking for some level of sustainability performance or expertise. If firms that aren't really representing this or working towards this are essentially kind of being left behind a bit. So I would kind of present it as a business case for your firm to get involved in. I think those two pieces would help you in a smaller firm.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think with any endeavor, regardless of the size of the organization, set goals that are manageable and that you can that don't impact you to the extent that other things suffer. I work in a large firm, but I'm actually connected to AIA Long Beach South Bay, which is a small chapter in Southern California that is made up of a lot of sole proprietorships and small firms. And the conversation there is always about, totally understand. Start with one project, track one project, make that your goal. Just to set a baseline and set a target for one project. And maybe next year, maybe that becomes 2 projects, and build on that and find the rhythm and the habits that work for you, and go from there. And it just takes that first step to get started.
I wonder if there are any other small firms online right now that might want to share their experiences. Again, we do want to make this a conversation. So if you have something to say, feel free to jump in. And if not, that's fine too.
I can just add on top of that comment there. We have started the SAP and it's great and it's coming together. And we're actually having a meeting tomorrow with a new group of people, but it's tough. I don't think our clientele are necessarily aiming towards that. And I understand that to create a clientele that wants to come to your firm for that, you have to start, it's the kind of chicken and egg sort of thing. And we are moving forward, but it's hard to get everybody excited about it. And it's pulling them all into the same room or just a couple people in the same room. And I've been trying to get them in there for weeks now. So we're moving forward with it, but it's a little bit of a struggle. And hopefully we can get some momentum just as a commentary.
And in those cases, it might be helpful to start with things that may speak to a different audience. Not every part of the country is going to be focused on reducing carbon emissions in their buildings or going all electric, right? But we can probably all agree on things like occupant health, especially depending on the type of work you do. If you do schools, for instance, really focus on making better classrooms for the kids and teachers, right? Whatever way you can talk about this that might speak better to your audience, I think is a way that you can use to get a foothold on this and bring people in. So look for other opportunities to address sustainability. Maybe it's risk aversion or something instead of reducing emissions, right? It's avoiding stranded assets, having better operational expenses in the future. So just other ways that you may talk about it with folks.
Yeah, great response, Chris. Couldn't agree more. Bring your clients' values into the conversation and meet them where they are. There are overlaps where sustainable design and their values will find common ground.
If you want to pop back to the questions here, seeing from Donna, talking about the process of developing new capabilities in-house for small firms, really trying to uptake in tracking building performance, energy modeling. So that's really going to be different, as Keith mentioned, by firm culture. And I'll give you an example of what we have done recently during COVID. We really used that time when things got a little bit slow is to upskill our staff in doing tally analysis, embodied carbon analysis on all our projects. So we had maybe 20 or 25 people that were trained up on tally and began to analyze each of their projects. So they got used to doing this work. And so now we've built kind of this body of in-house experts to do this effort. And now it's become part of our consistent process a little bit easier too. So maybe find something that you're interested in taking on, like this energy modeling piece, and get a group of people and start assigning them just to go after the work and start doing it. Take your project and run an energy modeling on it and see where you get to. And then you start to develop a little group of folks that can chat a bit about it and become internal office experts. That's one way that's worked for us.
Yeah, we do have an in-house research team, and that team does have the ability to help with performance analysis on projects, but we really do ask each of our project teams to own their targets and the performance of their projects and do that analysis themselves. And if we have resources available to assist, that's great, but we do ask each team to own that. And with that comes the ability to kind of elevate everyone. Everyone's influence is improved by digging into their project and understanding performance on the project by project level.
Looking at Barbara's next question here, are folks on Zoom transitioning from talking about sustainability to talking about things like design excellence or even value? Certainly others weigh in here, but this goes to a little bit about what we were talking about earlier, is kind of meeting the different groups at where they are. And I will say we certainly do this too. We have some clients that we know are not going to want to deal with LEED or sustainability in general, but one of the things that we found works well is presenting the AIA top 10 metrics and saying, we can design your project to move or go for an award like COAT top 10. And here are those different metrics that they follow to do that. And that gets some clients really excited to think, ooh, a design award, architecture excellence. And of course, when you're doing that, you're achieving all the different COAT measures that we're all trying to strive for. So kind of framing it in a different way like that really helps too.
So next question up is, excuse me, what resources would you recommend for teams wanting to become in-house experts on sustainability, or even completely new to this? Wow, where to begin. There's a lot of resources out there, and I think it really matters on kind of where do you want to hang your hat. If it is about energy performance, the 2030 commitments is a great place to start. A lot of great tools there for setting baselines, tracking progress, setting goals, and taking that into your projects. And it's really kind of designed in a way that it's kind of not tied to firm size. It's written in a way that can be built for small firms or large firms. So that'd be great great place to start. Obviously, looking at LEED and other certification systems provide a lot of great introductory information. I think LEED was really transformational when it was introduced at the turn of the century, because for the first time we had kind of a checklist of kind of what sustainable meant from a holistic standpoint: site, water, energy, materials, indoor air quality. That program now is decades old, and there's a lot of resources that the USGBC provides to begin to kind of build that fluency we've been talking about.
I would say find a topic of interest that you have. I mean, it may be something like water, for instance. Start diving in and learning different aspects of it, what other projects have done, and then use your experts, your consultant experts too. Don't forget to rely on them. Start talking with your plumbing engineer and saying, I'm really interested in water. I want to do X on this project. What opportunities do you think we have? And it's a good way to start a conversation, get some support from somebody else who may know and can help you in that project effort. And then just bring that work and start doing it. I mean, I think we all know in the architecture industry, as you start to really, do something at least once, you are almost an expert in it, right? If you do a lot of restroom detailing, somebody's going to say, hey, that's the restroom detail guy. So make sure you are just kind of starting it somewhere and working on it in your projects. Something that you're interested in is a great way to start.
Barbara also mentioned in the chat that AIU has some great webinars and classes. So I know there's a more recent Embodied Carbon 101 series that that AIA put out. We have the original AIA plus 2030 series. That's a 10-course certificate program. And then we do have a lot of resources online. We have the Architect's Guide to Building Performance. If energy modeling is something that you want to read more about, we have things on. We have a new renewable energy primer. We have a lot on our website, so check those out too.
And then so, Ashley's question,
go ahead, Chris.
We say Ashley's question about successes with the SAP work here. There's a few different ways to look at that. One is that you can start to include components that you can achieve to help get some momentum, really kind of set you on a great path and get people excited about what you can do. It's not necessarily that you're making things super simple to do, but you are targeting things that matter to your firm and your firm's work. So an example for us would be our regenerative design in our offices. We really looked back to the SAP and the firm goals to say, okay, look, well, this is what we've said. Let's do Living Building Challenge certification for both our offices. And once you make some achievements, it really helps to get some buy-in and people go, hey, look, this document is great. We're really achieving some of these things, and start to make little successes that you can achieve with that. And it really helps to develop into other things. And for us, that moved on to like the Emission Zero work that we talked about, that developed out of that. So as you can start to spin off other programs, other commitments in there, and really get people to see the value in it. That's what's worked for us.
Yeah, I would actually, Ashley, tout the process of even just sitting down and beginning to discuss a sustainability action plan. I mean, the conversations we had and were able to have because we were trying to coalesce all this into something that was understandable, led to some great dialogue. And what we found is that actually a lot of the content that is in our sustainability action plan won't sound new to our organization, but it was always done in pieces and parts that were scattered throughout different proposals and different project teams, and this really allowed us to kind of grab everything, look at it, have a conversation about it, and really kind of craft a document that brought the best of all of that together into one, hopefully, cohesive piece. So just the process of going through building the sustainability action plan to us seemed like a success because it allowed us to have conversations we weren't having.
Awesome. I've gotten a couple of direct messages around whether this will be posted or not. And yes, it will be posted. We'll add it to the 2030 YouTube page, which is another resource for working with the DDX, and we post all our webinars there. And we'll put it on the Basecamp as well. So just FYI. But if you attended today, you get the credit. So and within 10 days, you'll have it in your transcript.
Could I ask a question live?
Oh, absolutely. We love
A
it.
little more personal than the chat. Great job, guys. I really enjoyed the discussion. I guess one of the challenges that we've found is these ideas in our strategic plans and our subgroups and our goals are really strong. They appear in some projects. It's not as consistent as we'd like it to be. Are there ways that you work these into the, CD drawing set, right? So that it's explicit, that it's being communicated to the client, the owner, the contractor, is it getting to that level of detail? Can it? As opposed to being off on like the server someplace in a separate report or in Lead Online or, your SAP.
Yeah, we're actually having those conversations right now. I can't say that it's in there today, but we've also been kind of in a parallel path, strengthening our QA/QC approach to our projects. And right now we're having conversations as the sustainability action plan's getting, tightened up and getting ready for rollout. How could that inform our QA/QC process? And are there things we can be looking for in that QA/QC process that stem from some of the things we're trying to do as an organization from a sustainable and performance standpoint?
Yeah, I'd say this is a really great question because it gets to the implementation of how we do this work, right? For all of us, it's not just to create this document and say, look what we did, it's done, and then be all set with it. It really involves continual work. And for us too, sometimes it's a struggle, sometimes it's easier for other projects, but it's consistent messaging from our group, always going after projects and project teams and talking to them, offering our resources and help. So I think there's that piece first, is you kind of have to get your message out there all the time. You have to always be engaging with folks and offering your help. And secondly, starting to put this into our documents is really important. And I'll give you a couple examples of where we've done that. So we've had this long commitment for eliminating red list materials from all of our projects, not just our Living Building Challenge work. But that's something we have to enumerate in our specifications. So that information has been in there for some time, and as well as other things in our sustainable design requirements section in Division 1. So we're putting in the energy performance, water performance, and information about the materials, and then addressing those in each section. And now one of the things we're doing most recently is dealing with that in terms of embodied carbon. So setting certain targets in our specifications for primary materials that we're addressing, asking for transparency documentation like EPDs to help move the industry and just our projects in general. So really starting to address some of these things, as you mentioned, in your documents is really important, because it's not just for our work, but it helps everybody else too. Contractors, subcontractors that are part of your work. The more this starts to get out there in the bid environment and the city that you're building in, the better support you'll have for this work going forward, kind of training others and helping move the message along too. Yeah. But it's continual effort.
Yeah, the messaging is so key. And Barbara's heard me talk about this before in regards to LPA. We have an institutional memory of 90 days. That means if we say something in January, we have to say it again in April, and then we have to say it again in July, and then we have to say it again in October, and we have to keep saying it until we actually see it in our projects, and in this case, see it in our documents. Because once we see it, then we know the habit's there and it's been established and it's taken root. But until we see it, someone could have missed a session. Someone, may have gotten busy with another project and it's fallen off their radar. So until we see it, we have to keep talking about it.
Yeah, and a good example, again, people always ask us how are you able to do so many living building challenge projects? We always want to do one at least, and it's because we address it with every client. So we bring it up every time, talking about a regenerative level of performance, trying to find a certification system that will align with their clients' values. So always addressing this level of performance that you're after, whatever works for you and your sustainability action plan. Make sure to find a way to bring it up to every client and just keep doing it. It's just as I say, a continual effort. It really is.
Yeah, so if I could ask a follow-up question, if it's not too bold, don't want to hog the chat or anything.
Go for it.
All right. So I think you gave some great examples of hardcore ways that you're integrating these into your deliverables, into your instruments of service. And you mentioned QA, QC, and specs. But I think what's missing is a visual documentation of these ideas, and people don't see or really integrate sustainability except when they draw it. And I would really love to see examples of that in the set, because then I think that brings it home to our staff a lot better. And it's really hard. They have to think through it. They have to actually create something. And it's not just a template or a tool that they're plugging it in. And then I think the thing that I'm running into is the idea that we can't do that. It's going to increase the cost of the project. Contractor is going to look at and increase the bid because of the complexity there, or an extra sheet in the set. And I guess, I don't know, have you received any feedback that way, or what do you do about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think we personally have definitely run into that, and I think sometimes when we have trouble defending that, whether it be a value engineering exercise or a budget review, is when those strategies there hasn't been a strong connection made to our clients' goals and values. When those strategies are seen as being integral to aligning a project or a design element to a client's values or goal system or belief, then it's much easier to defend why it's there and what the value of it is. When it's seen as just an add to the project that's just kind of tacked on, really easy to get removed. But if it's woven into the narrative of the project, it becomes integral and is easier to defend.
That's great. I totally agree with that. I'll give you a few other examples too. I think from one of the things that's worked for us from the very start is to show things like rainwater cisterns and PV in our very first renderings to clients. We all kind of start with a rendering for them. We put them on anyway. We figure out how are we going to address this later with them? Are we going to be able to really keep this in the project? But once you start drawing something from the very beginning, I think we all know it's much harder to take it out. And then moving into that piece that Keith talks about is finding integrated ways to do this. Another example for us would be this Candida living building that we've done at Georgia Tech. It has this large porch roof over it that holds our PV system and as all our water collection, but we integrated it and said, this does multiple things. And it not only holds all those systems for the building, but it provides a covered and cooling space for outdoor classrooms. It shades the building and reduces overall energy demand. So finding multiple ways to handle strategies, with one design solution is a way to kind of VE proof them as well. And then lastly, what I'll say about the cost piece there is, one of the things I try to talk about is the idea that we have to move our industry and our clients beyond that. Addressing sustainability won't have any added cost. That's just not true. We're thinking about addressing a global crisis of climate change, and we're doing it to shift an entire business as usual industry, right? That has to cost something, just like anything else in our projects do, granite countertops and whatever else we choose to spend money on. So it's really helping clients to understand the value in it, how they can build responsibly to meet their programmatic requirements while still addressing the things that they need to for environmental health and occupant health as well. And just kind of shifting the mindset around where we put our value and our expenses in our projects.
Yeah. I think too, there's a lot of new tools out there that can help bring numerical analysis to support the value. I always joke with our structural engineers that, no one ever questions them when they say a beam needs to be this deep, right? It's just, hey, this engineer said the beam needs to be that deep. We have the ability to kind of provide the same level of rigor to our design decisions with tools, and can support our decisions just like an engineer can, with things that are maybe seen as a little bit more squishy than beam depth.
Well, we are a little bit over time, so I wanted to thank Keith and Chris and everyone for joining us and sharing their experiences. I think this has been a great conversation. Like I said, this will be posted on our YouTube page if you want to watch it again or share it with others at your firm. And if you attended today, you will receive 1 LUHSW. So thank you. Oh, and we do have another open office hour coming in a couple of weeks, September 1st from 1 to 2 p.m. And that's around the plateau. We're feeling like you've kind of leveled out on your PEUI reduction. So if you're interested in that, keep an eye out. We'll be promoting it more heavily in the coming week. So, and Tate will be there. So you'll get to hear from him.
Chris and I are going to chime in and ask Tate really hard questions. So.
Yeah, I love it. Payback.
Do it.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thanks.